Hey everyone, welcome to this 90th edition of Clarity Chat. Welcome to today's Clarity Chat with Ranjit Satyanath, CTO of Hippo Stores and former CIO of Croma, who's here with us as a guest in today's Clarity Chat. Welcome Ranjit to this session. Yeah. So Ranjit is an alumnus of Narsi Monji, Mumbai. He's an IT leader with over 20 years of experience, having worked in Primetime Media, Asian Sky Shop, Birla Technologies, ICICI Bank, Shoppers Stop, Crossword, Croma, and now Hippo Stores. So he has worked in technology and systems, served various industries, including retail, e-commerce, banking, media, IT consulting, and logistics, which has given him diverse perspectives of business. He has done CIO stints and is now building an online business from scratch. Ranjit, would you like to tell us a little bit about Hippo Stores?
Sure thing, Jagdish. Thanks for having me, and it's a real honor to be part of the show. I know that there were many esteemed colleagues from the industry who have been part, and to share the same stage with them is indeed an honor. So, coming to your question, I currently work with Hippo Stores. Hippo Stores is a business that deals with building and construction material. We do both retailing and do B2B sales of building and construction material. As a total addressable market, the potential is huge. Currently, our studies show that the addressable market is around 700,000 crores. And the opportunity really is because this is largely running in a unorganized manner. And what Hippo wants to do is build a platform that will organize it and make it accessible to everyone who requires it. Today, if you have to buy this material, you have to go to various shops. These shops are very focused towards either tiles or hardware and electrical paints. So anybody who wants to renovate their house or build their house has a very frictional experience. They need to go to all these places. They have to rub shoulders with worksmen. Whereas Hippo wants to change that complete experience. We want to give the opportunity to our customers to give them, we want to sell them building and construction material in a shopper stop kind of an environment with very knowledgeable tradespeople, very transparent pricing, the ability to buy online, the complete the online to offline, offline to online, omni-channel journey. So that's what we've been trying to build, and so far we have 3 stores uh, clustered in NCR. We have one in two in NCR, one in Chandigarh, and we have a franchisee outlet just opened last month in Ludhiana. So and we have been doing extremely well. The market has really embraced the concept, and we are looking forward to uh, doing more business and growing many times where we are currently.
Oh, this is awesome. But I immediately realized that it's not as easy as like typical e-commerce where you can simply order something online and get it, because this also requires quite a bit of consultative selling, a physical as well as digital presence, sort of putting your arms around the existing ecosystem as well, not really not really trying to replace them,
Correct,
right?
correct. So there have been there have been players who tried this before. So they tried it either only online or only in store, or they tried to address only the retail segment. Uh, but you're right. This requires a lot of hand holding. So that's why we have our stores which develop as experience center, where you can come talk to our experienced consultants before buying material. And for our B2B customers who don't require this kind of experience, they can just go online and buy what, because they are already experts in the field. They know the exact SKU that they want. They can just go and buy.
Hey, thanks, Ranjit. I think we will talk about it as to what is different in building a complete online digital business. But just to give a quick sense of what is coming up to all our audience, what we are going to cover today is, of course, like looking at Ranjit's experience, and then what are the principles to grow your career. He has some interesting insights on finding domain, so he'll explain that. He has worked in businesses which tried to go digital, and then now building a business which is digital first. So, we'll kind of have a discussion about what are the differences. And I'm sure this will give a lot of you out there who are trying to go digital insights on what is different, and what are the mistakes to avoid. The other one is like, on the what I kind of articulated as art of articulation, communication as a key success factor. And then we ended up having a discussion on generative AI, likes of ChatGPT, and how it can transform various processes in retail. So this time we will go very, very tangible instead of just like, blue sky thinking, process by process, like, how it can be different. So, Ranjit, before we start talking of serious things, let's get some energy going up. Please share a funniest incident from your career.
So there are a couple which I found particularly funny. So this was one of my earliest organizations, and I just joined the company, and I was heading IT, and there were two, three executives who were there at that time, and they were not able to manage the load. So that's the reason for creating my position. So basically, I had these two guys to induct me, and we had an operations manager, extremely tough. And everybody, when he used to walk in, people used to just start sweating. Uh, so uh, and and I used to observe this daily. And since it was my first few days, the interactions that were going on before I joined, they continued. So I was watching one day, and there was this operation sales report, that was to be handed over to the operations head. And then he looked at it and he said, what is this? And he suddenly lost his cool, and he says, what kind of report are you getting? This is completely wrong. uh, please correct it and get it. So he very meekly took the report back, came back to the system, and then I asked him, is there something wrong? uh, he said, no, there is nothing wrong. And but before this, this guy was smart enough to ask him, what are the numbers? I mean, what is wrong? So he said, no, this number should be so and so. So he came back, took the same report out, edited it, and put the number that the operations manager wanted, and gave it back to him. Okay. So so I was flabbergasted. But but it sort of taught me one important thing, that if you try to manage people with fear, people will react in very different manners. And that may not be something that the organization requires. So from that day onwards, I realized that you know don't try to scare people into doing something. Explain why a certain thing needs to be done. If there is a problem, try to understand that problem and solve it. There was another incident. It was an e-com launch, and this was the first time that the company was going online. uh, and 11 p.m., and the all systems were supposed to be a go. But 5 minutes before, we found that nothing is working. So we call in the expert. The expert comes, does certain things, and and the minutes are ticking, and he's fixing this code, that code. It's like a scene out of a Hollywood movie where they are trying to defuse a time bomb. Should I cut the red wire or should I cut the blue wire? So he does something, and then he says done. So I was feeling very confident, done. And then he was about to press the enter button, he didn't press it, and I looked at him, he was praying. Okay, he was literally with his hands praying. So so I lost all confidence that the expert has to actually pray. Anyway, the prayers worked. We went live and very successfully at that. But in hindsight, they are sort of not comic but tragicomic.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think the first one is, not really funny. And I have seen this, that, one of the first things, the moment I think a big litmus test, for technology is when the business managers are, they feel confident enough, or I wouldn't say confident enough culturally, when they start trusting the reports coming out of the system, and they don't feel like manipulating it, or there are enough controls, around for them not to manipulate it. That means somebody above them, is seeking a report from the system and saying, no, I'm going to trust only the system. And I think that's where I have realized that unless the top guy trusts the numbers coming out of the system, uh, the levels below are not going to really make it work. But that's a very important lesson, as well as really, yes, this happens more often than you mentioned it, right? Yeah. So let's get going. So before we start grilling you, Ranjit, let me acknowledge our audience. I already see a lot of comments here. So we do have CXOs, founders, IT managers, and seasoned technology industry leaders in our audience. We all know that technology is necessary but not sufficient to drive business performance. And everyone like you here who come on Clarity Chat, we have built the bridge between the necessary and sufficient with the art of managing technologies. So Clarity Chat builds that bridge with their learnings, and everyone who's trying to make a powerful impact with technology, we just get some insights from this. And that's the entire purpose which keeps us going, for the last 89 episodes. And thanks to all our audience who have kept encouraging us, kept attending this show. So let us see who all we have here. So, guys, whoever has been silent so far, please put your name and where you're joining from here. Meanwhile, let me bring in some people here on the screen. So, we have Randy Logistics joining from Cameroon. Thank you, guys, for joining. You've been regular for last few shows, at least in 2023. We have Dattatray from Oman. We have Amarinder wishing everyone Eid Mubarak and Happy Akshaya Tritiya. Hey, that's Papa on our end, Amrinder. So let me rectify that. Hey guys, everyone out there, Eid Mubarak and Happy Akshaya Tritiya to all of you. Uh, it's a jolly day that way, and I think it's good that it fell on a Saturday and we are having this clarity chat. We have Muthu from Chennai signing in. We have Seth from Texas. Thank you, Seth, for joining. I hope the daylight saving time is making it easier for you to join. We have Senthil from Bangalore. Yes, Senthil, a regular. Thanks for joining. We have Nitin Phatak from Pune, and we have Amit Pradhan from Noida, and we have Jagannath Patil from Pune. We have started getting some questions also, Ranjit. So let me take this opportunity, guys, everyone. Retail, e-commerce, building technology, any questions that come to your mind, please start shooting them in the comment section of this chat or on the YouTube. They will be flowing to us. And meanwhile, we still have people joining in. We have Ashok from Croma, must be an ex-colleague.
Yes, he is.
Ranjit,
Yes, he is.
thanks Ashok for joining. We have Rachit Shukla. Thanks, Rachit, for joining. And we have Jay. He has been on this show earlier. Thanks, Jay, for joining. So let's get down to grilling Ranjit. So as we always start, so Ranjit, we have lots of youngsters in the audience. So we basically ask you to let me ask you to recount your story from being a youngster trying to make your mark, trying to build a career, and then reaching here. So please recount your journey from the start, and how did you reach here?
Yeah, so Jagdish, when after I finished my graduation, in those days, hardware was hot and software, was basically all that was available in India was packaged software, basically for office automation. Uh, so everybody who was an engineer, sort of wanted to do hardware, and I also did the same. I interned in an organization, and my job was to assemble display units. So I did that for about 6 months. Then I realized that it was a very shocking experience, because when you build display units, and you accidentally touch the wrong place, you get jolts of electricity into your body, and I did not quite enjoy that. Then I went into a company called Shrishma. There, I was managing the entire technology for them. I was the only person who understood technology, and mostly, again, all these office automation applications, making sure that all of them ran okay, the tally is working, so on and so forth. Then I joined. Then I did freelancing for some time, and I joined a company called as Primetime Media. Primetime at that at in the early 90s, satellite television had not yet come. All the programming that people in India got to watch was Doordarshan programs, and Doordarshan programs used to be marketed. So there used to be producers used to make the programs, go to Doordarshan, and get a slot there. Then Doordarshan would appoint certain people to sell those programs. So all Doordarshan had to do was air the program. So in prime time, what I did was analytics, version 0 point 0.1, if I can call it that. So there used to be TRP data that was available from the market, and advertising data that we got from various syndicated sources. So creating analytics reports, so that our sales people could take it to various advertising agencies and tell them, hey, look, why don't you advertise on Chitrahar? All your competitors are advertising there. So and we had, prime time at that time had lot of hit programs like Chitrahar, Dekh by Dekh, Zaban Samal Ke, so on and so forth. Then came my first foray into what can be loosely called retail, because this is the as seen on TV model. So Asian Sky Shop used to show new innovative products on television, and then people used to call in and place their orders. There was a franchisee network. Franchisees used to have their own telephone operators who would receive these calls, and sales would take place. Uh, in 2000, I joined Birla Technology, which was an IT services company. Because most of my experience in the past had been working for domain companies, I did not quite enjoy an IT services stint. So I left. So I left Birla Technologies, and then I moved to phase two of my career. Phase one of my career was all, smaller, owner driven companies, uh, but still giving very rich experience, because these companies were very small, and I learned a lot about very diverse functions like finance and accounts, operations, marketing, sales, uh, because conversations were very open, there were no turfs, and people shared information very, very freely. And the other very important thing that I learned is, in India, Jugad is very important. And, these small companies know Jugad like nobody's business. So, how to manage things when things are not going quiet your ways, another lesson that I learned in these smaller organizations. Then in the next phase of my career, I moved to ICICI Bank. ICICI Bank, very large organization. It had the second largest loan book after SBI. There, I got exposed to the real tech. Uh, you know, because it was managing such a large loan book, a lot of hardware and software, were put to work. Uh, I implemented some of them, got exposure to managing scale. So, during month ends, all of us literally prayed, like my story from earlier, that systems would scale, because every year the load was almost 10 to 15% more over the previous year. That's the way the company was growing. I got a lot of experience in managing turfs, and that was something which I did not, something which I did not enjoy. But then I realized that if you have to work in large organizations, turf wars are a reality. uh, Navigating
Absolutely.
scale, and most important, and I think one thing that ICICI does very well is the process driven nature. Also, because it's banking and it's largely, it's regulated very heavily, processes are very important. Some of them seem silly, but looking back now, they are so important. So uh, even what font, so if you're creating a PPT, the headline has to be this font, this color, and this size, was clearly mentioned. There were process documents, and anybody who didn't adhere to, if I mean, if the smaller meetings, it would still get away. But if you had to present to a GM or a senior general manager, you better take care of all of this. Otherwise, nobody's going to hear what you have to say. The other thing that I learned was KRAs. ICICI, even at that time in early 2000s, they had KRAs for every hierarchy. So if you were a general manager, you had your KRAs clearly defined. And if you were a senior general manager or somebody at the executive director level, your KRAs were very different. So your KRAs would be more of how do you manage external environments. So so balanced scorecard is now being seen as something that is uh, you know uh, I mean, with the modern knowledge workforce, that is not something. uh, it's on its way out. A lot of companies are doing away with it. But and I agree to doing away with it because it has its flaws. But what I want to emphasize here is the company's processes were so bang on and so early on, and that had great deal of impact in shaping me into thinking process whenever you're doing anything. So even now, to my team members, and some of them are here, I make it a point, whenever you're deploying something, you have to inform people that you have to inform the entire company what is getting deployed. And after you finish deploying, you have to tell them that you finished deployment, it is a success. uh, what are the impacts that people will have because of that deployment? Because unless you communicate, people will never know what technology folks do. uh, and that is something that I learned, at ICICI. And then the third phase of my career, I came into retail. When I joined retail, it was in 2006. At that time, banking was very technology heavy, retail not so much. Now it's a completely different story. So I could put a lot of my learnings from ICICI into my employer, Shopper Stop. And Shopper Stop was, I think, the most ideal learning ground anybody who wanted to get into retail could get. There were a lot of people early on who had, documented very very rich documented processes on everything regarding retail. So I learned a lot of retail from that. And also it gave you a lot of the company gave a lot of leeway to experiment. I remember we had rolled out, even before apps became a thing, the loyalty app that we rolled out for Shopper Stop was on Symbian, on Nokia E51. uh, Obviously it was ahead of its time, so did not meet with much success, but Shopperstop has been known to do that. And I set up the online business there with some very very able colleagues at that time, and spent 8.5 rich years there before I moved to Croma. In Croma, challenges were different. Company was evaluating an IT services partner. Wanted to get more out of that relationship, so I helped them do that. Set up a lot of processes, particularly related to store opening. Our existing enterprise applications were not very efficient, so got that cleaned up. And then I think a lot of contribution of IT to all this, but the company started making profits, probably a couple of years after I joined. And I was there for about 5.5 years. And then in 2020, I joined Hippo Stores, which is my current employer.
Awesome, awesome. So I think I did pick up some as you were narrating some growth stories here, Ranjit. So I think the biggest one that comes to me is that when what you said right in the beginning, the hardware was hot and everyone wanted to work in hardware, and then for all slowly the software overtook it, and then the apps overtook everything. Then the online business overtook. Overtook the rest. So I think the biggest one is like for me is that what is hot today may not be hot tomorrow. And what we see from Ranjit's experience, everyone, is that you have to keep evolving by experimenting and by picking up new things. Like for example, in phase one, he tried hardware, advertising, direct shopping, IT services, and I think he just kept coming out of whatever he didn't like. But I think the biggest one was early phase of the career, getting things done, whether jugaad or whatever way, but you have to get it done, right? And then comes the phase two when you sort of move into the middle management. In case of Ranjit, moving to real technology, banking, managing scale, learning how to manage stuffs, even though he didn't like it. Learning how to sort of how to manage process driven operations, being sensitive towards brand, while you look at it as a process, Ranjit, I think it's also brand sensitivity, right? Like your presentations and being very very careful about your presence, KRAs communication. So basically like moving from a jugaad to a very very formal way of working. And then in the phase three, finding the niche into retail, which is like starting with Shopper Stop, getting mentored into retail there. Again, like learning some new things, like experimenting, uh, getting that, as well as like empowering people, setting up online business, and then to Croma and Hippo, which is like again developing and fine tuning your niche and growing into that. So, by the way, Ranjit, reminds me that I think you're the fourth one from Shopper Stop here. So we've had Arun, we've had Vineet
Anil.
after that, and then Anil, and I think you're the fourth one. Uh, I have a doubt there was a fifth one also, but I'll.
There will be more, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I think there are it has been that you can say the talent powerhouse, the way HUL or G or these companies are, which basically lend talent to all the organizations. I think Shopper Stop has been one of them, definitely.
Definitely.
So Ranjit, while you have been working in these large organizations, large established organizations, um, when you started building Hippo, which was from the scratch, right? Again, this question is targeted to the answer to this question is targeted for those people who think of building something, either a startup or like starting your own venture. And what I want to get from you is that when you were in all these companies like ICSI, Shopper Stop, Chroma, and all, there were a lot of things which were already present, right? Which you took for granted, knowingly or unknowingly. When you started building Hippo Store, which is a completely new venture, I mean, suddenly you would have figured out that, hey, the things that I took for granted are no longer there. Even I have to contribute to that. So what are some of those things which you handle in a new venture, which you take for granted in an existing one?
So, to add more complexity, actually, we were supposed to build the business just when the pandemic hit, right? So, so it was like Sone pe Suhaga. Uh, so, so the first thing was, Jagdish, like you rightly said, there were no defined processes. So processes were getting defined around us, and uh, I remember a lot of these meetings. Uh, so every Tuesday we used to have process definition meetings, and this is while software development was going on. Uh, so and while we were configuring the software, or some software was getting built, developed, we used to ask certain questions, and suddenly people used to figure out, oh, we have not thought of this process. And then we used to quickly discuss and arrive at what needed to be coded for. So in a way it was good, because in which organization did you have processes that were built for because the technology team asked for it, right? So that was something that I felt very different from my earlier organizations. But budgets were extremely limited, because when we started, we had no inkling whether the business would work or not. So we were working on a minimum valuable proposition, MVP. So budgets were extremely constrained. So I did not have budgets for team members. So I relied a lot on my connects from the industry, external consultants, to make things happen. Like, for example, I wanted to acknowledge Vinay Hinge, who actually stepped in and played the role of our network consultant at that time, because I didn't have a networking person. And if a store needs to go live, it needs to go live with a working network. Uh, uh, and there was no office space. So there was a store getting built, and while the store was getting built, we were all working in it. So when it was fit enough for the actual fit outs to start, all of us moved in there, and we were working wherever there was space. So I think I still have some photographs where we are having a meeting in a bathroom mock-up. Okay, so we pulled a table, and there are four commodes on which we are sitting and having a discussion. So there is the sound of drilling happening, con calls, lot of disturbance, cement falling. So it was the complete experience of what a startup would feel like. It takes you completely out of your comfort zone, and starts challenging you. But then you realize that whatever you have done in your career till that point was preparing you for this, because the skills that
Absolutely.
you picked up, the connects that you built, all of them came together to take you through this situation. So I think everybody needs to work in a startup at least once, because, like you rightly said, there are so many things that you take for granted, which suddenly doesn't exist, and it shows you that you can still do it without
Absolutely.
all the things that you take for granted.
It's actually, like, I mean, since, I run my own business, I run my own startup. Uh, when you said this, it kind of like, just epiphany came to my mind that when you're building your own business, we all start with individual contributors, and then we become leaders. And then once you get into an entrepreneur role, it's actually all the roles that you have played together over a time series coming together in terms of a convergence. Something like that, everything everywhere all at once, a movie.
Correct.
So whatever you have done in the past, something from each of those roles, you have to play a part right here. But so rightly said, MVP mindset, doing with whatever is there, relying a lot on your connects and external consultants, limited budgets. Well, when you said, no processes and your process definitions need to happen on the fly, and an opportunity to define, these processes for the future, right? So So Ranjit, I want to wrap up this conversation with just like you can call it as a rapid fire question. Now, when you look back, as you recounted your entire, journey with us, when you look back, what are those one or two critical success factors, which kind of you find a common theme across your entire career, which led to this journey?
So, Jagdish, as a child, I was extremely energetic and mischievous. Uh, Before the age of 5, I was run over by a bus, I was gored by a bull, and I almost fell off a building. Right? That's how mischievous I was. But because I was this bundle of energy, I, I just couldn't sit still. But both my parents are academics, and there were a lot of books, you know, around me all the time. Uh, and it was no wonder that I also drifted into reading. And once I got into the habit of reading, two things happened. So all this mischief and everything went out of the window. Though I think growing up also had something to do with it. But reading, reading does sharpens one. I don't know if you can call it a muscle, but it sharpens your imagination, because when you're reading, you have to actually imagine what the author is trying to say. And I think that really builds your imagination. And imagination, I think, is one of the most underrated skills in people today. So
Fully
I
agree.
definitely thought that it built imagination, because when you're doing your work, when you're talking processes, when you're trying to find solutions to problems, if you don't have imagination, if you don't have imagination, you can't think out of the box. Everybody says think out of the box, but thinking out of the box just doesn't happen. You should have trained for it in everything that you have done previously.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Right. The second thing is, people say mind your business. I will say don't mind your business. Okay. Because uh, at least in the Indian context, I see parents telling children, elders are talking, why are you asking this question? And children slowly, because of this is my personal view. Okay, there may be very good reasons which other people can think of, that is contrary to mine. So I think children should be encouraged to ask questions. If they are asking something that is not apt, they should be told in a manner that doesn't sort of scar them from asking it later on, when they grow up and they start their professional journey. uh,
Yeah,
and you should always bear in mind that if you are doing something, there could be something else that you might have not come into contact with, but you would probably enjoy more. So uh, so please ask questions. Ask what the guy in finance is doing, ask what the guy in marketing is doing. In fact, other than whatever I've done in engineering, I have a degree in psychology and a postgraduate degree in marketing. So uh, so i i always enjoyed learning about subjects that were not my core competence. The third thing is, build very informal relationships, and build informal relationships within your department, within your team, but do it outside of the team also. I remember there was this great colleague I had in ICICI called Vinay Nigutkar. He gave me a very very good piece of, I used to go to him, and he was there in ICSA for a long time, and I could understand that he had managed this turf negotiation very well. So I used to ask him, how is it that you are able to do it so well? So he said, look, if you are not able to manage it, go to the tapri down, and whatever can't be solved in a conference room, you can solve over chai or sutta. Now, I'm not encouraging smoking, but I'm simply trying to say that anything that is not solvable through a formal discussion, you need to build those informal bridges with people that matter in your team, in your organization. And if you do that, a lot of problems that you have faced, you would never even have come across, because relationship is the grease that smoothens everything.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Let me note that down. Relationship is the grease. I would fully second that. In fact, way back, someone gave me a life advice. He said, you will never be able to do business with someone who hasn't had a meal with you. Okay, and I was like, okay, you know what? Why don't we fast forward it? Whenever an opportunity arises, you seal the deal with a meal. And yeah, I fully agree. Whatever cannot be solved in a conference room can be done over a chai or sutta or maybe a water cooler, right? And
Right.
I think this is one thing that I have always in a way, it always stood out with me, Ranjit, that the number of outings we used to have, evening outings we used to have, whether with our partners or whether with colleagues and all. I think it used to be used to kind of be an eyesore for other people, but I never minded it because I knew that that's what is getting the job done, right? Especially when you are in a multi-partner, complex scenarios, large projects, too many moving parts. I think those the grease of relationship is really really important. So Ranjit, quite a few questions and comments here. So let me go to our audience. Let me take a pause in my questioning. I'll come back to it and let me take these questions here. There was one question. Just a minute. I need to look for it. It came pretty far back. Yeah, this is from Dattatreya Patnaik, and he's asking how technology, IT, OT has really penetrated the building and construction technology.
So right now, I mean, the whole reason we entered into this market is because it has not really penetrated. But there are several players as we speak who are seeing the same opportunity that we are seeing, and are trying to make inroads. So a lot of large organizations like L&T, Jindal, uh, Dalmias are a large conglomerate. There is a lot of PE interest. So there are some uh, you know other players funded with PE money who is getting into it. So the market is huge, and I think the technology, the op- or shall I say, the opportunity for technology to reduce the friction that customers face today is enormous.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. So there's another question for you here from Senthil. So he's asking, what are your tips to look at when you have moved into different profiles and company changes, cultures? Still, you become successful in these organizations over years there. So I
So
think,
I
yeah, what I read is that different profiles, different companies, different cultures, but you still are successful compared to your peers or the incumbents there. So what are your tips?
No, I don't think I'm more successful than my peers. In fact, I take a lot of tips from my peers. So one of the one tip that I can give is make sure that you know your peers well, and ask them what helped them be successful, and then just try to emulate it. Bring your own persona also into it, because something that has worked for them may not work cleanly for you. Their context may be different, your context would certainly be different, but they can certainly give you a point of view that will help you immensely.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was a great tip that you asked for tips from your peers. I think you need to have that humility to ask what you don't know, and I think that's a very good that's a big quality for good leaders, that they never assume things. They believe in this dictate that there are no silly questions. I mean, every question is important. Every question is an intelligent one. Yeah. So especially when you get into a new organization, I think the art of asking the right questions and and figuring your way out by talking to a diverse set of people. As you said, I think you answered that, building informal relationships, talking to different people, asking the right questions. I think those become important. But thanks for that question, Senthil. Uh, Another important question from Nitin Phatak. He's asking how the returns process is handled for B2B and B2C in Hippo stores considering bulk volumes. How is the customer care handled in considering e-commerce in building and construction material? Ranjit, I'll leave it to you whether you want to answer this question or not, or how elaborate you want to be.
No, so
Uh,
I will answer it very simply. We have enabled all these return journeys online. So anybody who wants to return anything can go into the website, initiate a return. It goes to our supply chain team. They look at it, and they connect with the customer, and they understand why that return is necessary. Because, like Nitin correctly said, some of them could be bulk items, and where you need to take a truck, and that may involve a cost. So B2B works a little differently from B2C, uh, and it's handled very seamlessly. So we have many returns on a daily basis.
okay, okay. Then maybe you can take it as a rapid fire, Ranjit. I would have loved to take it as a rapid fire, but it's Amarinder, so I want to bring him in early. Why is it so difficult to build successful super apps? We have seen marketplaces and D2C flourishing. What would be the trajectory of super apps in India?
I wish I had a crystal ball which could tell me how they would do. Currently, I think they are not doing too well. We are, you read all kinds of stories in the press, but credit to them for trying. It's an extremely difficult. I know, like if you take the Tata Group for example, they are trying to bring all different products on a single app. It's an extremely difficult thing to do, and credit to them for trying it. I'm sure, with the Tata Group's track record, the other people who are doing it is the Reliance, and both these are large conglomerates. I'm sure they will make it happen. uh, but for customers, actually it will only work if the customer experience is great, right? So
Absolutely.
you have to make the process. So tomorrow, if they are, say, selling building material, they have to make the process of returning building material as simple as returning a white shirt. So if they are able to solve the customer experience part of it, then I'm sure both these players will be extremely successful. But right now, I think there are a lot of work still to be done to reach a stage where customers will be comfortable ordering consistently from these platforms.
Absolutely. But let me ask you this question. This triggers the question. So I'm sure Chroma was part of the Tata Super App this thing strategy. Let me just ask you a simple question. What were the two or three challenges that you saw, from a practitioner's perspective, in terms of like, in the overall strategy? Like, is it like integrations? Is it physical? Et cetera, et cetera.
So actually, the super app journey for the Tata Group started after I had moved out. So I don't have a first-hand point of view there. But let me give you an example of what are the kind of problems that could happen. Imagine you are trying to build a common loyalty program. Loyalty programs mean earn through a purchase and burn somewhere else. Okay. Now imagine you are buying a Chroma product, and you are earning points, right? So the points, the value of the points is funded by Chroma. Now you want to use those points and buy, say, uh, a dress from Trend, right? The points that Chroma has funded is will actually be utilized at Trend. So managing those kind of physical processes is going to be more difficult than technology.
Absolutely.
Technology is still the simple part. It's the physical process of setting up a logistic system which can handle every kind of product. is going to be insanely difficult. So that's the challenge that these guys are trying to solve.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, actually, I think in my personal view, all the physical processes that every organization has put in place, changing them is very difficult, even though it looks not. And I think if you start attacking them there, and if you make it like a win-win across different organizations and each organization's own selfish interest, I think that is when it will work. So anyway, so Ranjit, let me. I know we are like 11 minutes away from 6 o'clock, and I still want to ask you a few questions that we promised people in our post that we'll be asking you. Yeah. So Ranjit, if you go back to your Shopper, Stop or Croma days, right? With what you are doing today, okay. Let us say if it was the other way around, that you built Hippo Stores, okay, and then now you go back to Shopper, Stop or Croma. What would you do differently? Maybe two or three things that you would do differently there than what you did in the real scheme of things.
Yeah, so certain things were done at that point in time. The knowledge was at a particular level there. My personal knowledge was at a particular level. The technology evolution was at a far lower level than what it is currently. So certain decisions and certain decisions were taken keeping that in mind. But if I were to list out two or three things that any retailer who's trying to get into online business should do, is first one, I will say, clean up all your internal processes. Because one thing that I had read in the 90s itself is that when you are going to take your business online, every one of your internal process is going to be visible to your customers. Okay. uh, One example is, if you have an existing promotion in your store, you cannot have a situation where for the same cart the same promotion does not exist online. But this is a mistake that many retailers did, causing, people said, "Arey, when I go online, I don't get this promotion. I come to the store, I get it for a better price. So then why should I go online?" One reason why online did not work. Second, in retail, the way it has evolved, everything is store specific. In online, the complete story changes. So whenever you want to go online, you have to ensure that you align the objectives across the organization. For example, say the incentive structure. So if you're going to have omni-channel, and there is no point in having physical and online without doing omni-channel. So if you're incentivizing your store team based on store sales, and you expect the online customer to be serviced from the store, then it simply will not work, because the guy in the store, especially for high selling articles, will not give up that inventory to a customer to whom, if you sell, he won't get any incentive, right? uh, Third, identify critical skill sets for online success. Now, skill sets such as content creation, digital marketing, development, quality assurance, UX, customer service, make sure that they lie within the organization instead of simply outsourcing it. Store metrics. I talked about everything being store metric. There are a lot of matrices that retailers use for the store, like you have GMROF, gross margin on square footage. Now, this is not going to work when you're going online. If you're shipping from the store, okay, and you have sold something online, how are your GMROF numbers are going to lie? You need to have online specific or online friendly matrices, like how many perfect orders did I fulfill today, OTIF, on time in full deliveries, how many returns happened, uh, so on and so forth. uh,
Right.
then one aspect of omnichannel that I learned recently. In omni-channel, you say that you should leverage your inventory in the best possible manner. So have the same inventory, and you should fulfill it from your warehouse or from the store. But I would say that please relook at whether you're getting as much margin if you ship from the store as you would get from the warehouse. Store shipments are much more costly uh, in terms of fulfillment cost. When returns happen, the store team is not geared to take returns. So there are a lot of nitty gritties when you ship from store that you have to be careful of. So if you're working, say, in fashion, where and you have a well trained staff, then you can do it. But in certain categories, you should definitely not do ship from store as much as you do ship from FC.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think, just to summarize, and I think these lessons are important not only in retail but in any other business as well, which is trying to go online. And what I call as, like, digital first versus digital two. Evaluate your processes, okay? And because the moment you go online, your processes will be transparent to the customers, and you will have a red face. Again, things, a lot of things are store specific, but not so in online. It's like one common store across. So you have to align the objectives across the organization. Let's say I was in automobile, and an automobile, I can see similar thing. Like, things are very, very dealer specific, right? So if you really want to go online, you will have to create some sort of a common objective across the organization, right? Then again, keep customer experience within the organization. Very, very important, point there. What works, the store metrics that you have, or the physical metrics that you have for physical business, may not work in online business. So you need to redefine, realign those. And yeah, of course, like, people think that it's an important learning, where people think that I already have this great physical presence and I can leverage it for shipping, and sometimes it may not be as cost effective as, like, creating a very specific sort of warehouse shipping method, right? Because there things the processes, the cost per process iteration is much lower than in the store, because the stores have different priorities. So, Ranjit, again, I'm like aware of time. We have 4 minutes, one question, and rapid fires left. So let us quickly move to an important one. It's always in the discussions nowadays, the generative AI or chat GPT. So what kind of impact? So let's take maybe two or three process areas. And let's say if you were to think in an unconstrained manner, how do you think these processes would look completely different with the intervention of something like, I would rather call generative AI, not really chat GPT, because with APIs you could use them in a different way,
Yeah,
right?
that's
Not
the
just,
right term.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I think lots of opportunities for retailers both online and offline. So coming to online first, so you can make your see currently the online journey is more static. When you come, there is a home page. You see certain fixed products. With generative AI, you can actually make your online shopping experience more conversational. So, for example, instead of putting red shirt in the search, you can actually say, "Show me shirts similar to Brad Pitt's entry scene in Ocean's 11." Okay, or you can say, "Show me looks for a beach party." And a website that is powered by generative AI will be able to show you. So you can shop by look. You can shop by look, and you can do more intuitive shopping, because that's how the human brain is wired. Uh, so coming slightly below, today generative AI can write you very, very rich SEO friendly product descriptions. Not only that, AI can actually take a look at the image, the product image, and generate product descriptions from that. Imagine the time and manpower and cost that you save here. You can personalize the online experience. You can have context aware AI, which curate products based on who you are. Like for example, you are male, you have a waist size of say 32, and in your past shopping you have preferred block colors. So it can give you products that you normally shop for. Or if you are a new shopper, it can ask you a few questions, understand you, and then give you products that match your taste. uh, from a CDIT point of view, like how do you install a television by yourself? Uh, somebody can write a textual description of how that uh, installation needs to be done, and generative AI can actually create a video which can be displayed on the site. You can have real time custom promotions, like based on customers past buying pattern. The model would actually know what to offer the customer, and if the customer will actually buy without a promotion, that can actually improve your margins. On the back end side of things, replenishments are something which every retailer struggles with. What should I buy that will sell? So with generative AI, it could become as simple as tell me what will sell in my Delhi store between May 1st to June 15. Again, the model can look at probably 2 or 3 years of past data, uh, and if it's a new product, pick up products similar to the new product, and suggest options that you can stock. So I think these are just few things that came to my mind, but I think uh, the whole retail scenario with generative AI is going to change dramatically over the next 4 5 years.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then context is the game. I've just, as you were talking, Ranjit, I was just like looking at my own shopping experience. I actually apply a lot of filters. All of us. I think the first thing that we do is we say what we want, and then we start applying a lot of filters. And it's, I think, one of the experience that sucks the most. So what if I could just say that, hey, I'm looking for something in shades of red, size 44, and and so, and then what you said, like if you can also provide certain imagery, right, which can then be used by the AI to generate other filters for you, right? And now the subsequent process of filtering can be better. Now I get, let's say, 2000 choices, and it says, and then I put another one which shortens it, then another one. So I think, and then the thing is that the next time I come for shopping, it already has my set of preferences. So I think pretty powerful, and thanks for laying it out for us. So I think we are at the end of the hour. So let's move to the last section. Again, this is one session where I'm forced to, make an exception, Ranjit, taking 5 more minutes. So, guys, if anybody we are moving towards the last fag end of our chat. Another 5 minutes of your time on a Saturday, and let's move to the rapid fire round. So while I'm asking Ranjit rapid fire, he said I'm also going to ask you some rapid fire. So this is going to be a little bit more fun. And meanwhile, if any one of you has any rapid fires for Ranjit, which book, which actress, actor, etc., the best book, you can ask him those questions. So, Ranjit, first question: should one pursue a career in technology or a domain, and
So,
why?
if you're interested, so let me take banking as an example. So, if technology interests you, then you should pursue technology. But if you're doing technology in the banking domain, it will benefit you very greatly if you understand the banking domain as well, because without having a very deep knowledge of the domain, you will not be able to be effective in delivery of technology.
Absolutely, absolutely. I agree. I think the technology works in the context of a domain. So the domain is the richer part of it. Maybe domain is the 80% of it, and 20% is the technology. So if you are master in that 80%, I think you have got much better chances of of success or getting ahead. Okay, so yeah, give us an early example. You talked about the power of communication. Give us an early example when you realize, oh my God, communication is going to be powerful.
Yeah, so Jagdish, I think this was my second job, and the chairman, managing director, very big shot, whose name I will not say. He had his son come from the US, young boy, and he was to take over the business, and he had some small medical condition that needed to be taken care of, and he was going to get that procedure done in one of the top hospitals in Mumbai. But unfortunately, somebody goofed up at the hospital, and resulted in the boy losing his life very tragically. And because he was so well connected, there were a lot of condolence letters that were pouring in from all over the country, from ministers of the ruling party to film actors and very IAS officials, so on and so forth. A lot of condolence letters poured in, and the CMD now needed to acknowledge those condolence letters and send a response. So at that time, his secretary, like senior people often do, they delegated it to one of their GMs, and the GMs dictated a letter, and the secretary had some problem with the word processing software, so she brought it to me and said, yaar isme kuch problem hai, jara please. So I went through the content of the letter, and I felt that this doesn't reflect the spirit of a grieving dad who's acknowledging all these condolences. So I told her that. She said, yaar, if you want, you write it and tell me. So I said, okay, let me give it a shot, and I wrote it. And then she took it out. She liked it. I mean, she liked it enough to actually show it to the MD. So he looked at it, and that was the letter that finally went out. So I was here, one junior level guy. I probably, you would have seen me every day, but not even registered. But at least thanks to that, one aspect, he actually called me, thanked me, and did not help me anything more than getting confidence. But then at least it gave me the confidence and the learning that it is very necessary to have good written and verbal skills.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. So there's one rapid fire for you from Amarinder, Ranjit. He's asking, how did the name Hippo Stores come about? That's the first question. The second one is, which are the two posters on the wall behind you?
Yeah. So when we were debating what should we name the organization, one of the recommendations was Hippo, and we felt that the imagery of the hippo was large, which we wanted to portray largeness of our assortment and friendly nature. Hippo is by no means friendly in the real sense, but when generally it is portrayed in movies, cartoons, and all that, it is portrayed as extremely friendly. People perceive it to be extremely friendly. So that's how the name Hippo came, because we wanted to say we are large. We have a large category. We are a large assortment. Because till then, building and construction were very niche stores. Hippo means large. And the second one is easier. So one is Steve Jobs, Amrinder, and the second one is Benedict Cumberbatch in his avatar as Sherlock.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. And there's another rapid fire coming from Dattatreya. Where would you like to roam in Mumbai?
Where would you like to roam in Mumbai? Bandstand, probably.
Bandstand, yes, yes. A big favorite of everyone.
Now, I think since last week, I have a fracture on my leg. Otherwise, I would have definitely gone and visited it, which is the new Apple store.
Oh, yes, 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 absolutely. Yeah. So, Ranjit, you had some rapid fires for me, but before you do that, my last rapid fire for you. We have been talking about the art of articulation. What's your message to the youngsters out here?
So I'll say, by all means, please do not keep your thoughts to yourself. Share them. It will enrich you in your career. Don't worry, if you can't speak English, you know, just go out and say what you want. If the other person understands Hindi, he will definitely appreciate you for your thoughts. I had this, when I was interviewing for some positions, I used to ask people questions in English and they used to struggle, and I used to think that they don't know their subject. But on a hunch, I just shifted my line of questioning in Hindi, and suddenly the answers, came in very, very succinctly. uh, so practice, teach, speak to diverse set of people, and that is definitely going to enrich your vocabulary. And now we have a new challenge, because now a lot of our communication is going to happen on video conferences. And in any communication, non-verbal cues are 70% of what gets communicated to the other party. So make sure that you are sharp in those 70% section. So make sure that you dress well, so that you are taken seriously. Make sure that you keep your camera on during video conferences, so that your expressions can be seen by the other party. uh, you master communication, and I think you should have your technology skills, that's a given. But I think communication is the secret sauce that's really going to take you places.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. So your rapid fires for me.
So Jagdish, you worked for a long time in a car company, and I've been researching a lot of cars, not because I want to buy it, but generally because a lot of new launches are happening. So I was wondering, when you reached out to me, that if Jagdish, who's worked in a car company for so long, what would be his choice of car? So I'll give you three choices. Say you have a choice between a Volvo, Mercedes, and a Ferrari. Which one would you buy, and why?
I would go for a Mercedes because so I'll tell you my reason. So one is that I think Mercedes has been the pioneer in safety, okay, as well as to an extent in user experience as well,
Not
right?
Volvo. I thought Volvo was the safest car.
Not really. By the way, Volvo is now owned by Chinese.
Oh,
I
that's
mean,
right.
it doesn't really go against. It's owned by Geely now, so I'm not too sure about how it is going to go into the future in terms of its product evolution and all that. I hope they have enough autonomy. But I think Ferrari is more for making a statement. But I think if you look at a combination of well balanced, I believe in balance. So if you look at the balance between speed, luxury, safety, utility, and comfort and everything else, I think it's a very very balanced product. By the way, if you give me further choices, I would rather go for a Range Rover.
Okay.
That's my love for Tatas.
Okay. So my
Anything else?
second, yeah,
Yeah.
one more question. So you're a consultant now, and suppose you and I enter into an agreement, for some reason, the condition is that I pay you after 10 years. So in what currency would you like your reimbursement? Dollars or cryptocurrency?
Again, if I have to talk balance, I would love to have it like 60% in dollars and 40% in crypto. It's more like a hybrid fund, not just equity or debt, but hybrid.
Okay, well said, well said.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, any reverse questions, Ranjit, beyond these?
I wanted to ask you, Mac or Windows?
Mac. I'm right now using a Mac.
Awesome. I mean, we can go on for, I know,
Yeah, no, no, no.
another
I
half
think,
an
I
hour
think, I think,
more,
I think,
but
I think. Yeah, yeah. We should end now. And thank you everyone for being patient with us. We are almost 13 minutes over, but I still want to take a couple of minutes to, to summarize the whole thing. Wait. Yeah. So in the first one about his career, hardware was hot, but then it was not. So what is hot today may not be hot tomorrow. So don't lock yourself in what is hot today. Just continue experimenting, evolving, getting out of your comfort zone. And as Ranjit's experience showed, like, in the initial part of the career, you jugaad, you try to get things done, make a mark for yourself, and then you get into the middle management where you, like, you learn a few new things around managing turfs, managing scale, and all of that, and then and at the end of it, like, finding your niche and then sort of fine tuning that and growing into that. That's how Ranjit has evolved his career. Not the only way, but I think it gives some insights to all of us, right? Um, when you're starting a new business, there are a few things that you cannot take for granted. Like, for example, you won't get any ready-built processes, so you have to define processes on the fly, and that's an opportunity. Even if it sounds like a limitation, you can hand build your processes. You have to have an MVP mindset. Be ready for limited budgets, no office space. Rely a lot on your network rather than on your formal reportees or hires. And then I think very, very well said, and an epiphany from the session for me is that whatever you have done till now, when you are into a new business as an entrepreneur or as a part of the founding team, I think all of these experiences come together for you to be able to do what you have to do, right? Which is, I call it as, from a CEO to a peon, you have to do everything, and all these experiences come together. Then some takeaways from the growth principles. I really liked your definition, Ranjit, where you said, before the age of 5, you were gored by a bull, you came under a bus, and you almost fell off a bit. It can be a very powerful resume, by the way. But then I think the interesting thing was that, this mischievous kid was transformed by reading. And again, an epiphany that, reading builds imagination. When you have to solve problems, when you have to think outside of the box, I think all that you have read and all the alternatives that you have sort of you haven't done but you have read about, they all come together to give you that thinking outside of the box. Don't mind your business, poke your nose into everything, especially in the initial parts of your career. Learn as much as you get, as much as you can, and very importantly, what Ranjit said is that you want to encourage your kids to question and don't tell them to mind your business. And the last one was, like, build informal relationships within and outside the department. Anything that cannot be solved in a meeting room can be solved over a chai or sutta. Seal the deal over a meal was another one we kind of discovered here. Um, and the next question was around what would you do differently, if from if you have to, like, a digital first business rather than a digital two business. So the insights that came out again from his experiences in physical retail versus like online retail now is like, evaluate your processes again. Physical retail is all about store specific, not so in online. You have to align the objectives across the organization. You have to keep the customer experience, critical customer experience elements within the organizations. A physical business tends to be very, very store specific, not in online. And there is a misnomer or a myth that you can do shipping from your stores, but it can be very, very expensive, right? Again, some takeaways from generative AI related question. How can generative AI transform retail? It can make a very intuitive shopping experience. You can put your imagination as a prompt and then you can get recommendations. The iterations can be much more meaningful. You can write rich SEO friendly product descriptions. You can personalize the online experience, what I call as a context aware shopping. And then you can actually run real time custom promotions with AI trained on the customer data. Right? And of course, then we had our rapid fires, the fun part of this. Um, at this point, thank you, Ranjit, so much for being here and really, really engaging discussion. Just lost sense of time and ran 15 minutes over. Quite after quite a few, chats, we have been this much over. Um, and thank you everyone who have watched it, who have been patient with us so far. And not to forget all of a lot of our audience who watch this, the recording over their free time over the weekend and beyond. So thank you everyone of you as well. Thank you, Ranjit, for being with us.
My pleasure.
Uh, yeah, and thank you everyone. Bye bye. Have a great weekend. The remaining part of it. Bye bye.
Bye.